Hello, guys. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is The Knowledgeable Programmer, and I'm here with my friend Lloyd. He's actually a junior software engineer, and he has solid skills as a front-end developer, and it's starting to get into the back end. So we will do this video here to introduce you to Express, and go ahead, Lloyd.
So a huge portion of the internet's data travels over HTTP, HTTPS through request response cycles between clients and servers. Every time that you use a website, your browser sends requests to one or many servers requesting resources. Every image, meme, post, and video is represented by a client and sent in a response from a server. Express is a powerful but flexible JavaScript framework for creating web servers and APIs. It can be used for everything from simple static file servers to JSON APIs to full production servers. In this lesson, you will be fixing a machine called yourself in the browser. The machine is supposed to provide functionality for clients to interact with various expressions. JavaScript objects, each containing IDs, names, and emojis. Currently, it looks nice. There it is in the UI. But nothing works since there is no server in place. You will be learning all the necessary skills to implement an API, allowing clients to create, read, update, and delete expressions. These four functionalities together are known as CRUD, and they form the backbone of many real-life APIs.
Yeah, basically, CRUD servers and APIs are these are the real technical challenges that they face creating these APIs for them to use or for many other developers to use.
So starting a server. Express is a Node module. So in order to use it, we will need to import it into our program file. To create a server, the imported Express function must be invoked. So we've got some syntax here. So const express equals require express. Const app equals express. On the first line, we import the express library with require. Yeah, we do. When invoked on the second line, it returns an instance of an express application. This application can then be used to start a server and specify server behavior. For the purpose of a server is to listen for requests, perform whatever action is required to satisfy the request, and then return a response. In order for our server to start responding, we have to tell the server where to listen for new requests by providing a port number argument to a method called app.listen. The server will then listen on the specified port and respond to any requests that come into it. The second argument is a callback function that will be called once the server is running and ready to receive responses. So here we have some example syntax similar to the syntax that we had at the top. And it says here, in this example, our app.listen call will start a server listening on port 4001. And once the server is started, it will log server is listening on port 4001.
Yeah. That's very common syntax for these Express applications. This will be the same for simple Express applications or complex.
Okay. So it says here, we'll import Express using the require syntax and assign it to the Express variable. So require, and that is going to be Express. Oh,
yeah. And this right here is an example of what they call the CommonJS, which is how the module system used to work on JavaScript. There can be some tweaks to make it work with the import and export syntax, but as we are doing this course on the server, so of the Codecademy, they are explicitly using the common JS syntax.
Create an instance of an Express server and save it to a variable named app. So there's our instance. So I'm just gonna call that, close off this.
Very good.
So start the server listening on the port defined by the port variable. When the server is started, log a message to the console that the server is listening for requests. Okay, so it's telling me there I need to use the method listen.
And pass it the port.
Yeah, so the first argument, as I said, is the port. The second number is the callback function.
Callback, yeah.
Okay, so, and then it's asking me to console.log, and then Codecademy are pretty specific about the syntax. So I could type out the server is listening on port.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to pass in the port.
Yeah, this right here is the string interpolation syntax with the backticks.
So I'm just going to check well, let's just run it and have a look. Okay, so we passed the checks. And it says here, Will, to actually start your server listening, run the command node app.js to run your server in Node. Okay, so let's just do that. So I'm going to run the command node app.js. And then I suppose I'll click enter. Yep, so there it is.
Yeah. We have a server listening.
So write in your first route. So once the Express server is listening, it can respond to any and all requests. But how does it know what to do with these requests? To tell our server how to deal with any given request, we register a series of routes. Routes define the control flow for requests based on the request path and the HTTP verb. For example, if your server receives a GET request at /monsters, we will use a route to define the appropriate functionality for that HTTP verb, GET, and the path /monsters. The path is the part of a requested URL after the host name and port number. So in a request to localhost :4001/monsters, the path is /monsters. The host is localhost and the port number is
4001.
4001. The HTTP verb is always included in the request, and it is one of a finite number of options used to specify expected functionality. GET requests. Yeah, well, go on.
Yeah, commonly the options for the HTTP verbs include get, post, delete, put, and patch. Those are the most common ones.
GET requests are used for retrieving resources from a server, and we will discuss additional request types in later exercises. Express uses app.get to register routes to match GET requests. Express routes, including app.get, usually take two arguments: a path, usually a string, and a callback function to handle the request and send a response. So we've got a syntax example here of an array of objects, and the array is called modes.
And each object got a specific mood.
Yeah. And we've got a route here, which is /modes, and we've got our callback function.
Yes. Notice there that it has 3 parameters. That is because Express functions are actually what it's called middlewares. We will talk more in depth about middlewares later on, but just know that almost all Express route will always have request and response, but the next keyword there will be more specific to middlewares.
Nice. So the route above will match any GET request to the /moods, which is this,
Yeah.
and call the callback function, passing in two objects as the first two arguments. These objects represent the request sent to the server and the response that the Express server should eventually send to the client. Excuse me. If no routes are matched on a client request, the Express server will handle sending a 404 not found response to the client. So now that your server starting code should be working properly, you can start up the Express yourself machine. Start your server from the terminal window with node app.js. Okay, node app.js.
Yep.
Let me just verify that's running. Yeah, so the server's running.
And now refresh the browser.
Refresh the browser, will do. Okay. Once it logs that it is running, you can refresh the browser window, currently displaying not found. Inside app.js, create the route handler to handle a GET request to / expressions. For now, give it a request response next callback. For now, log the request object inside the callback. So it's saying here that I need to do app.get.
Yeah.
And the first was
the path.
A string, right, Will?
Yeah. The path, which is going to be, we're using the shorthand version here, that is /expressions, because since the server is listening on port 4001 of our local host, it will attach also the local host 4001 and prefix it to the /expressions.
Nice. So the second argument, well, it was a callback function,
A callback, right? Yeah. And they said explicitly to use request, response, and next.
And they asked me to console.log
the request. I don't know if they said request body or what specifically.
Should we double check?
Yes.
So there's the route that I wrote.
Oh, it's the whole thing. Yeah, the request.
Yeah. So I suppose I better I have to start the server again, Will?
Yes, because this we're using host machine inside the browser, so we don't have. Well, we sort of do have permission to use things, but I don't know if we can add packages to it.
Yeah.
If we could add packages, we could add a package called NodeMon, and he could start and stop the server once we do some changes and restart it with the correct with the code with the changes.
So, Will, am I going to hit this route then, expressions?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the request object?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, there's lots of things.
It should have a property called body.
Yeah. Is this alphabetical order, Will? No, it's not, is it?
No,
so,
it doesn't seem to be.
Yeah. Am I allowed to do no, I'm not. I was going to say, am I allowed to? So there's the query, but yeah, I believe you. It's got to be on here. There's the parameters.
The parameters, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's check the work. And yeah, we got the green tick mark. Okay, so let's. Okay, so send in a response. So HTTP, what does this mean? Well, HTTP.
It's called Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Yeah, it's because in the beginning, the file system that the web was used with mostly HTML files, and yeah, it was a protocol that was created so that HTML code could be served from servers to clients, meaning from the server that has the backend code to the browser, which is the client, and show it and render it.
Mm-hmm. So HTTP follows a one request, one response cycle. Each client expects exactly one response per request, and each server should only send a single response back to the client per request. The client is like a customer at a restaurant ordering a large bowl of soup. The request is sent through the wait staff. The kitchen prepared, the wait staff returns it to the customer. In the restaurant, it would be unfortunate if the soup never arrived back to the customer, but it would be equally problematic if the customer was given 4 large bowls of soup and was asked to consume all of them at the same time. That's impossible with only 2 hands. Express servers send responses using the .send method on the response object. .send will take any input and include it in the response body.
Yes. So basically, the send method is the way that we can communicate back to the person that is using this API. This is the way that we can send them information that we have access to.
And just to be clear on this, Will, this is the response object, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So we've got some example syntax here. We've got an array, again, of objects. I'm assuming, is this sort of like replicating sort of like a database?
Well, yes. The thing is, since it's very early on, they will not introduce the complexity of having a database. So they're using like in-memory data, representing it as an array. And yeah, we will that will mock the data that we could potentially get from a backend. Yes.
Nice. Okay, so here's the app.get / monsters. There's the object again, request, response, and next. And here's the res.send, and they send in monsters. So they send in
They're sending the array, yeah. And basically what they said was that we can only have one send per request. So be sure to not send use res that send multiple times.
Okay, no worries. In this example, a get / monster request will match the route. Express will call the callback function, and the res.send method will send back an array of spooky monsters. In addition to .send, .json can be used to explicitly send JSON formatted responses. .json sends any JavaScript object passed into it.
Okay, yeah. There is some conventions. You can use explicitly JSON server, meaning that all the responses are going to be handled with JSON. But in Express, you have that flexibility of using JSON or using a regular send method that will not transform data into JSON itself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, man. So it says here, Will, I'm just going to try and open it back up. I don't know how it's going to look on YouTube, but, just to show as much of the code as possible.
Yes.
So send the expression. Yeah, I'll move this back over there. So send the expressions array from your app.get handler. So I've got this app.get handler right there. So send, yeah, so it's asking me to send it. So res dot send,
Yes,
and I'm looking basically for this array right there.
exactly.
Cool. So let me just post that in the parentheses, and then, right.
They are using a specific function called seed elements. Um, they're basically providing the expressions that are stored in a separate folder or a separate file, and now populating that expression so that it's not returned as an empty array.
Okay, cool, man. So it's asking me here, well, send the expressions array from your app.get. Yeah. Now that you have a complete route, you can test it out by reloading the browser window and clicking the refresh button. So I'm assuming I got to check the work first. And then,
Restart the server. Yeah.
yeah. So node app.js. And then I've got to refresh this. So it's asking me, now that you have a complete route, you can test it out by reloading the browser window and clicking the refresh expressions button on the machine. So there's the button. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, 200.
Well, the codes mean specific things from the request, meaning that this response, it's saying that it went all well, that we got the data that we were expecting, and it was an okay response.
Right.
It could be many other status codes, but I think they will introduce to us those status codes as we need them.
Right, okay, no worries. So it says here, well, if you make changes to app.js, you will need to restart your server. So you mentioned earlier something about NodeMon.
Yes, sorry, I think I was too loud. Yes, there is a package from Node that is called NodeMon. And basically, NodeMon is a package that helps you start listening for changes in a specific file. It watches for changes of app.js, for example, and every time app.js it's resaved, like you do a change and save it, it will automatically stop the server and restart it with the new code.
Nice. Okay, so matching route paths. So Express tries to match requests by route, meaning that if we send a request to server address, port number, API endpoint, the Express server will search through any registered routes in order and try to match /API -endpoint. Express searches through routes in the order that they are registered in your code. The first one that is matched will be used and its callback will be fired. In the example to the right, you can see two .get routes registered at /another route and expressions. So when a get expressions request arrives to the Express server, it first checks another route path because it is registered before the expression. So I think what they're trying to get at here is that when the code's executed, it's run synchronously, so it'll just go top bottom.
Top to bottom, yeah. And the first item that matched the specific route, the function the callback that it has, that's the callback that it will run.
Yeah, I got it. So, yeah, and then it says Express moves on to the next registered middleware. Since the route matches the path, the callback is invoked and it sends the response. So I think what it's saying here is this is the request, a get request at this route. It's going to run through the code. It's going to hit this. This matches. It's going to move on to this. This isn't a match. So it's just going to carry on to the next one.
Yeah, it has to match both the HTTP verb like the get, for example, and it also has to match the correct route
Right.
endpoint.
Okay. So if there are no matching routes registered or the Express server has not sent a response at the end of all match routes, it will automatically send back a 404 not found response, meaning that no routes were matched or no response was ultimately sent by the registered routes.
Yeah, and here we are talking back about a 404 not found. The 404, it's just like the 200, which meant okay. But this time, if you receive a 404 status code from the server, it means that it didn't found the resources you were looking for.
Okay, so getting a single expression. Routes become much more powerful when they can be used dynamically. Express servers provide this functionality with named route parameters. Parameters are route path segments that begin with a colon in their express route definitions. They act as wildcards, matching any type at that path segment. For example, monsters slash ID will match both monsters 1 and monsters 45.
Yeah, so basically this is like a catch-all because uh, it will catch whatever comes after the slash, and it will internally assign that to the parameter ID. We will see next what are the parameters of the request.
Express passes any parameters, extracts their actual values, and attaches them as an object to the request object, rec.params. This object's keys are any parameter names in the route, and each key's value is the actual value on that field per request. So let's just open this up to get a bit of a
Better view. Yeah.
So again, we have this object there, which is saved in monsters. And then the first key is Hydra, value is an object. Yeah. Then we've got another key value pair as we normally see in objects.
Yes.
And then, we've got an app.get here, but we've got a slash monsters. And then we've got this. So this is the wild card, right?
That's the wild card. Yeah. In this specific example, it could catch either Hydra or Dragon. You can pass whatever one of those two, since those are the ones we have available. And it will return whatever value it was attached to that specific property.
So we console.log in here, request.params, yeah, and we're getting this out. And then we're sending the monsters, which is the object, with the key, so meaning this, with whatever comes in on the request.params.name.
Yeah, that's basically returning whatever was stored on that property name. Like the property could be Hydra or Dragon. So if the request was called /monster/Hydra, it will return the object with height 3 and age 4.
Yeah. And yeah, that's good. So in this code snippet, a .get route is defined to match monster's name. Yeah, that's the path, which is, we can see that there. When a get request arrives for monster's Hydra, the callback is called. Inside the callback, the rec.params is an object with the key name and the value Hydra, which was present in the actual request path. The appropriate monster is retrieved by name, the object key, from the monster's object and sent back to the client with a res.send. So let's just make this a little bit, I can maybe close this down a little bit and get the terminal down a little bit. So it says here, create a get expressions ID get route that you'll use to send back a single expression. So where would be a good place to put this? Okay, so it's telling me to do it there. Okay, so let's just write that out. App.get is what I'm doing, and I'm hitting the first one is the expressions.
Yes. And then the wildcard.
Yeah. And it's asking for an ID. And we know from previous lessons that the next is going to be a request, a response, and a next object.
Correct.
Okay, and that's going to take a function body. So it says here you can use rec.params object and the pre-written helper function get element by ID, which is this one, to find the correct expression before sending it. For instance, to find ID 560 from expressions, you would call get element by ID 560 expressions. So this looks like it's the array, and this function returns the element object if it exists and undefined if it does not. Don't forget to restart your server when you make changes to app.js. To test Express Machine yourself, use the box in the upper left corner and send a get method. Okay, so probably going to make this just a little bit bigger so for the code.
They are giving you a specific function called get element by ID. So
Yeah.
we would have to call that function. It has two parameters, a number, which is going to be the ID, and the array that or the object that we are looking for, which is this time is expressions.
Yeah, so there's that function that you were talking about. Okay, so we were in app.js. So I suppose the first thing that I need to do then is to
get
get a
parameter.
variable. Yeah, and I'll call it expressions ID. And that's going to equal the return value of this function. And yeah, go on.
I think you should get first the expressions ID from the request param so that you got the ID.
Oh, okay. So the rec dot params dot ID.
Exactly.
Okay. And then I need to use this pre-written helper function.
So now it's a good time to create a new function that will hold the result of calling that get element by ID.
So create a new function.
No, a new variable, sorry.
Okay, so const
expression maybe, or found expression, yeah.
Yeah, and that's going to be equal to the return value of this. And obviously the first one is going to be this, and the second one is the array.
Yes, the only catch there is that the ID is supposed to be a number, so you would have to call the number constructor and pass it the expression ID to get the expression ID converted from a string to a number, because every parameter that you get will be of type string automatically.
Okay, and just to be clear, I copied it from there, but we're talking about this. So this is the array there.
Yeah, that's the array.
Yeah. Okay.
Now you should start the server again.
But it says here, okay. Well, this can't work at the minute because I'm not sending anything.
Yeah, but we need to get the server going, and then we will use the browser to send that request.
Yeah, but we're not sending anything back to the browser.
Oh,
Yeah.
Good one, Lloyd. So we would need to send rest.send and the found expression.
And wait there, because let me just go through this because they can trip you up here, because obviously we've got a number, but it does say here, it says here, this function returns the element object if it exists and undefined if it does not. So do we need to be passing an if check here?
No, that get element by ID handles that case internally.
Okay. So I suppose I'm gonna have to stop and start the server now because I've just put this in there.
Yes.
Right, okay. So I'm gonna press Control C, stop the server, and then node app.js. So that's running. And then
Refresh the browser.
yeah. And then don't forget to test your Express machine, use the box in the upper left corner to send a GET request for a specific ID. Okay, so it's asking me to click this box and put an ID in there. So I'll just put 1 and I'll send the request. Okay, so the request's okay.
And we got our response. The object was of name happy and with emoji happy.
Yeah.
We got our expression back.
So do you know, to confirm that, Will, could I just put a 1 on the end of there and hit this route and I'll see this object?
You would have to put expressions first and then the 1.
Right, okay. So let me just copy that then.
And delete the extra slash. Oh, it
Okay,
didn't
nice.
work.
Yep, that it is. Nice.
So right now we are going to leave it like this because we will continue this series later. So stay tuned to the channel and keep yourself notified with the bell icon. And we will have another video out soon. Thanks for watching.